Welcome back, everybody, to the CC Sports Talk Podcast, episode 17. Haven't talked in a while just because I've been super busy with work. I know I keep saying it, but I'm trying my best to balance the work and the life and stuff like that with the podcast. But yeah, I have a lot to talk about. Last time I talked to you guys was before March Madness, obviously, so we have to talk about March Madness. I had a couple thoughts before we went into March Madness about seeding and stuff like that, which I'll hit on at the end. Because there's a lot of more things I want to talk about first. Um, but yeah, let's just dive right into it. This tournament has been perfect. It has been so good. It's been so good, so good, so good. Um, and maybe I'm just reacting like that because the last couple of years haven't been so good. Um, but this year has just been, I think, a great tournament. Um, the first Thursday was a great day, I thought, with the High Point game. That was a great game. The Ohio State TCU game was a great game. The Duke Siena game was a great game. There's just a lot of good games the first day. Second day was definitely a lot chalky, but um, the Kentucky, um, sorry, I'm blaming for the other team. Santa Clara, Kentucky Santa Clara game was a very good game. I thought the Missouri Minnesota, excuse me, the Miami Missouri game was a really really good game as well. And yeah, but let's dive right into it. The first game I want to talk about was High Point in Wisconsin. Um, the High Point Wisconsin game was just so good, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Like what a great watch! What a great basketball game. Um, as a I went to High Point University, so that was very fun for me to watch. I was super excited about it, super pumped up about it. But yeah, the game itself was just a great game. Taking my purple tinted glasses off. The game was a great game, and I like Wisconsin a lot. Actually, I was kind of disappointed that they had to lose because I think they're a team that could have gone far in the bracket, if they got like a different matchup. Like say they got St. John's matchup, which I'm gonna talk about St. John's later. But yeah, I thought Wisconsin going in as a High Point fan, I thought getting Wisconsin as a 5 seed was definitely pretty difficult. It was going to be a hard task to do because the guard play on Wisconsin was really good, really good. Wisconsin had a lot of bigs, which High Point obviously they don't have that many bigs. They have Aquino, and they have the guy from UConn that's not very good. But Aquino is pretty undersized for a big man, but he's good. He's good. But yeah, I thought they were gonna get killed on the offensive rebounding glass and stuff like that, but they just had a crazy game. Like Rob Martin was a great player. Chase Johnson, who didn't make a two all year long, and then all of a sudden he makes a two to win the game for High Point, was a great kind of March like storyline, I guess. But that guy just took over the game in the second half for High Point and just put so much energy into them. And I love Kerry Anderson too. Um, he's a great player. I really like him a lot. I think he's an NBA player, same as Rob Martin. But yeah, I think in the High Point second round game against Arkansas, even though they lost, I thought that was a fantastic game. Cameron Fletcher too had a great game in the Arkansas game. Rob Martin had a great game, save his A cuff. Like the guard play for High Point was just so good. Um, and like I said, I like Kerry Anderson a lot. I like Cameron Fletcher a lot. It's disappointing that this team can't last like long in the tournament or won't be around like next year or the year after that because of the NIL and the transfer portal and stuff like that. Um, Teams like this are just one and done. Like this High Point team, High Point is going to be good year in year out as a mid major because they have so much money compared to everybody else in the mid majors. But and they'll be consistently in the tournament. I think they'll consistently win some games maybe, but they'll definitely be like a hard out every year in year out in the tournament in the first round for teams because of their NIL down there. And compared to everybody else in mid majors, they have a lot more money than everybody else. Um, but that second round game against Arkansas with Malik Thomas going off and Acuff going off and Rob Martin having a great game, Cameron Fletcher having a great game, I just thought that was such an entertaining, great game. And yeah, the next team I'm going to talk about as well is Nebraska getting their first win in the tournament. You saw John Rothstein online saying that he'll fly to Lincoln this offseason and pay for a whole happy hour for everybody for an hour, which I'm hoping to get there because I live here in Omaha. But yeah, I mean, they got their first win. I thought going into the tournament they had a lot of pressure on them, um, and they did to get that first tournament win. And doing some research on Troy and stuff like that, they have a great coach who looks like he's going to coach Georgia Tech next year, and they're a pretty good mid-major team as well. Um, I thought maybe Nebraska might be in trouble there, but they finally got their monkey off the back, and they got their first tournament win, and then they won the Vanderbilt game, which was probably one of the best games I've ever seen in college basketball. And that's not really an understatement. I think that game was just like perfect. Like it was just perfect, going back and forth, no big leads. These teams keep competing, fighting, lots of shot making, lots of defense, lots of rebounding, lots of great coaching as well. The end of the game, I thought Nebraska was going to slip it away, and they just kept hanging in there, hanging in there. And then the hometown kid, Braden Frager, gets the game-winning basket, and me and my neighbor were sitting in our garage, and we just screamed, and it was awesome to see. It was just such a great game, and one of the best games, college basketball games I've seen, in a long time, and maybe ever. It was just that good of a game. It was so good. And the Vanderbilt team is a great team. I mean, going all year long, everybody talking about who's better, Vanderbilt or Nebraska. Vanderbilt and Nebraska, because they both were pretty undefeated. Were undefeated for a lot of the season, until late January, I think it was. And they kind of got the opportunity to face each other in tournament, which I think a lot of people have realized how good both teams were. Whoever lost that game was gonna get a lot of credit. Just because of how good both those teams were. Like Tyler Tanner and Duke Miles and the Cherokee guy, and Tyler Nickel are just so good in Vanderbilt, and their coaching staff is good. Jalen Watson's pretty good. Yeah, it was just such a great game, and Nebraska just, you know, having Fred Hoiberg, who's been in the dumps for the last couple of years at Nebraska, brought them to the tournament 2 years ago to get killed in the first round against Texas A&M, and then last year, they fought all the way to the end of the season, but made it short of the tournament in their conference tournament. So they weren't going to make March Madness. And this year they just came out, and Fred Hoiberg is a really good coach. I think it's just hard. It's just hard to recruit as it's just hard to recruit and get people to come to Nebraska. They have a lot of money, but a lot of it goes to the football. But yeah, I think this season putting Nebraska on the map and putting Freddie Hoiberg himself back on the map, because he was in the hot seat at the beginning of the year for sure. Like if he didn't have a good season, I think he would have been fired. But obviously you got the extension in the middle of the year. I think they'll be good in the future, especially because players will see that they can come to Nebraska and have success. But yeah, it was I'm really rooting for Nebraska. Obviously, being from here, I kind of adopted them as a fan. But it's been super awesome and exciting to watch them play. Yeah, the next game I want to talk about was the VCU and North Carolina game. North Carolina was up 19 points in the second half and blew the lead, and the game eventually went to overtime, and VCU won in overtime. And that VCU coach, Phil Martelli Jr., his dad was a very, very good coach. And Phil Martelli was a coach at Bryant last year, I believe, and they made it to the tournament. And then he went to VCU, got them to the tournament, had a big upset versus North Carolina. North Carolina, yeah, they didn't have Caleb Wilson, but they were still up 19 points, and I'm pretty sure that's the biggest blown lead in the first round in the last couple of years, if not ever. I saw, which is pretty crazy because North Carolina's I'll talk about this a little bit too because they fired their coach today. That's probably the best job in the country other than Duke. It's probably Duke and North Carolina as the best two jobs in the country, and Kansas is number 3. And there's a world where North Carolina and Kansas can be open, because North Carolina obviously already fired their coach. Kansas, Bill Self, a great coach. He has some health problems with his heart, so maybe he might retire. He's talking with his family right now as we speak about it and stuff like that. So I'm sure in the next coming days he'll, figure out what he wants to do. I'm sure he comes back for one more year. But yeah, North Carolina blowing that lead was huge. I mean that was a great game, and I'm happy VCU won because I had them winning my bracket. I know nobody cares, but I had them winning my bracket, and I like North Carolina. I'm a North Carolina fan, but Yeah, I think North Carolina is in a not a bad spot, but they'll be all right because they're gonna hire a big time coach, I'm sure. And if I had to guess, it's probably Mark Byington from Vanderbilt, and maybe he'll bring Tyler Tanner with him, which would be huge. But yeah, they had the pieces to win the game and go far in the tournament still with Seth Trimble and Henry Visar and Derek Dixon and the Bogdanovich guy who's a pretty good shooter. But without Caleb Wilson, I mean, like I said, they're a good team. And Caleb Wilson brings them like all the way up to like a Final Four team if he's healthy because he's that good. But but yeah, that's such a bad look for the coach, Hubert Davis. And after the game, he was being snappy with the media and stuff like that. And it's like, come on, dude, like you're asking to get fired, and he did get fired. But and he should have gotten fired a couple years ago, in my opinion. But yeah, next game I want to talk about was Kentucky Santa Clara game. The Kentucky Santa Clara game was a great game, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. I think the largest lead was like maybe 5 or 6, maybe 8. I think it was by Santa Clara. But Santa Clara, they're the real deal mid major team as well. They got good size for a mid major. They got like pretty much like they got a couple NBA talents on their team with like Graves, and Mahi. Um, but yeah, that was just a fantastic game. And Otega Owe goes for like 28 points, I think it was in the second half, which is crazy, and ended up with 35 points on the game. Um, but yeah, I mean that was a crazy game. Like Santa Clara hits the three with 4 seconds left, then Kentucky going down the floor hits the half court shot to make it into overtime. Then Kentucky eventually wins in overtime. I'm not the biggest Kentucky guy. I'm not a big fan of Mark Pope because not he's a bad guy or anything like that. I just don't know what he does as a coach. But that roster, spent $22 million on that roster just to be a 7 seed and lose in the second round is not very good. Um, but yeah, I mean, it was a great game. Like, what a fantastic ending. That's what March is all about. Like, that's awesome. But yeah, I mean, I was kind of shocked that Otega Owe tied the game because Kentucky had such a bad season. I just thought there was no way they're going to win the first round game because they just have so much like negativity and bad juju, I guess, right now. Um, but they won the game. I got to give them credit. I mean, they got smacked in the second round by Iowa State without Joshua Jefferson, and they clearly don't like each other. They clearly like just they're cashing a paycheck and stuff. They're not playing for like wins and stuff like that, which is very disappointing to see. But um, yeah, next game I want to talk about is I should say team is Miami of Ohio. Um, I thought the first round game that they played in the first four was awesome. Um, I think that them putting in the first four, it was at the time when they put them in when the bracket came out. I was kind of disappointed in the committee by doing that. I thought they deserved to be in the tournament no matter what, not in the first four. But they eventually show they deserve to get there, even though SMU did some slimy stuff. But SMU, the slimy stuff they did was B.J. Edwards, one of their best players, if not their best player, was hurt before the tournament, and to better get a better seed, the coach on SMU said he'll be healthy, he'll play in the tournament if they get in. They got into the first four, and he wasn't available to play. And the coach just said that so they can have a better chance of getting in. And I think that's it's not. I would probably would have done the same thing. Not gonna lie to you, but it's definitely slimy, definitely not good. And they obviously lied through their teeth, but everybody else was lying through their teeth. UCLA said Bilodeau and Dent will both play, which Bilodeau didn't play, but Dent did. Um, it just everybody was healthy no matter what at this going into the bracket, which I mean I think a lot of people could tell who was being for real and who wasn't. But Miami getting killed in the first round was kind of uh, you know I didn't expect it. I thought honestly they would kind of compete better, and I don't think they would win the game, but I thought maybe they would compete. And they just absolutely got killed by Tennessee. But Tennessee was a bad matchup for them because Tennessee's got so much size, and Miami Ohio has no size. Mid-major teams, people got to know that they're not going to have much size because all the high major teams are going to pluck their size right off the roster because that's in the game now. Everybody needs size, 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 size. That's why it was crazy to see Santa Clara have so much size as a mid-major. Um, But yeah, Miami of Ohio, and I thought Bruce Pearl going on and on and on about why Auburn deserved it over Miami of Ohio, even though Miami of Ohio lost one game, and one game wasn't even in the regular season; it was in the conference tournament. Um, which Bruce Pearl just needs to shut up. Honestly, like I like Bruce Pearl a lot before all this stuff, but him going on and on and on about Auburn should have got in. It's like, dude, we know why you're saying Auburn should have gotten in. You used to coach there, and your son's the coach. You don't think they should have gone in if those factors weren't in play. They had 16 losses. They were one game over 500. They lost to Old Miss. I know Old Miss made a lot of noise in the tournament and the conference tournament, but they're a 15 seed in the conference tournament. They also lost to Mississippi State, who's terrible. Yes, they beat St. John's, but St. John's at the time lost to Kentucky. Kentucky sucks. St. John's at the beginning of the year isn't the St. John's we have now. And that season was a disaster for Auburn. They should have. There's no world that they should have got in. None. And if they expand this tournament, this is an example why they can't expand the tournament. I was going to go on this rant later, but I'm going to go on it now. The last four teams in were Texas, NC State, Miami of Ohio, SMU. Texas lost five out of six going in. NC State lost six out of seven going in. SMU also lost 6 out of 7 going in. Yes, Texas is still playing, and they do have talent in the roster, and they are good. Don't get me wrong, they are good. But they did lose 5 out of 6 going into the tournament. Maybe they should have not gotten, or maybe they just go back to the field of 64 instead of the field of 68. Because these four teams besides Miami, Ohio, deserve to get in. The three out of the four don't deserve to get in. The last four out, Auburn, Oklahoma, San Diego State, New Mexico, there's zero world where zero of those should even be considered to get in the tournament. None. They all had bad years. They all lost a lot of games they shouldn't have. Yes, San Diego State and New Mexico are in different conferences, mid-major conferences, but they're in okay conferences. They're not bad conferences. Um, and the committee clearly showed that the conference tournaments mattered. But did they? Because St. John's got a 5 seed. What world does that make sense? And Purdue goes up to a 2 seed. It makes no sense to me. I don't understand it. St. John's having a 5 seed, they're better than Arkansas, Kansas, Gonzaga, and Bama. Yes, Gonzaga lost, but St. John's is better than all these teams, and these teams were ranked higher. They're better than Arkansas, they're better than Kansas, and they proved that because they already beat Kansas. They're better than Gonzaga, and they're better than Bama. Bama right now is playing really, really good. I'm not gonna lie, but St. John's is better than them. But also at the same time, Bama has the head-to-head because Bama beat them at the way beginning of the season. Uh, but I don't know. I don't know. It just it makes no sense. But yeah. Also, another game I want to talk about was Iowa beating Florida, which is the craziest game of the whole tournament so far. Iowa, who has zero size, I think their tallest guy is 6'9" on the roster, and they beat the best front court in basketball, or best big men's in basketball with Chulinu, Alex Condon, Thomas Houck, and Micah Hanlockton. That's unbelievable. It makes zero sense. Zero sense. And to be honest with you, I think Todd Golden got pantsed as a coach. Because at the end of the game, in the inbound pass, they're up 2. Florida's up 2. And they're trying to foul. This is the problem with analytics. Analytics is telling the coach that he should foul right there. And hope they foul somebody that is not a good free throw shooter, even though Ben Stearns had the ball and he's 88% free throw shooter. And they're trying to foul, and that's why guys were open. And if Fulgaris didn't hit that corner 3 to win the game, there's a lot of other guys that were wide open if you go back and watch it. But like analytics, like it's got to stop in basketball. It's got to stop. All these teams that are pro analytics aren't winning. Look at the Celtics in basketball. Look at the teams that are winning that aren't analytical. The Thunder. The Florida won last year, but I don't think it's because of analytics. I think it's they have their best roster in college basketball. Let's get that straight, and I think we all know that. Let's not talk about analytics. Nate Oates doesn't win. Nate Oates doesn't win anything because he is pro analytics. This guy, It's just the analytics are destroying the game. The whole 3-and-D thing doesn't work. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. It's too reliant on, good shooting every night. And there's going to be nights in the postseason where you're not shooting well, where you're tired, where you're struggling to get up shots. I mean, look at Texas Tech against Alabama. They just kept shooting and shooting and shooting and shooting and shooting and shooting. That's why they lost by 100. It felt like. But yeah, the Florida coach got absolutely pants. I think fouling up two is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Really, in basketball, the stupidest thing I've ever heard. The dumbest. What if they don't foul and they miss the shot, and you win the game? What if you do foul and they make both the shots, or what if you do foul, they miss the second one, and they get a putback and one or something like that? There's just so many different scenarios that could happen with that, where you can lose the game still, or something happens where it's unavoidable, where it's avoidable. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me. Also, Texas getting an 11 seed and being Cinderella is the new Cinderella. I know Texas is a high major team. That's your Cinderella for you now. Cinderellas are dead. They won't happen again. As in Cinderella, I mean a team getting to the second weekend. High Point almost did that, but they didn't. And High Point was the highest spending mid-major team, so makes even more sense. The mid-majors just it's dead. I hate to say it, and I love the Cinderellas stuff like that too. But the new Cinderellas are going to be Texas at 11 seed, you which is still good for basketball, I think, in my opinion. These teams are upsetting people, and they shouldn't. The upset is still there. It's not as shocking as St. Peter's or something like that, but I think it's still pretty good for basketball. Yeah, and also another thing I wanted to talk about was the Dan Hurley versus Mick Cronin UCLA game. I'm not sure if you guys watched that game, but I'm just sitting here and laughing because they did the split cam of Dan Hurley on one screen and Mick Cronin on one screen, and all of a sudden Mick Cronin tells some guy, get the fuck over there, and then Dan Hurley literally the next second after tells somebody the same exact thing, and they're just yelling at people, swearing at the refs, stuff like that. So it was pure entertainment. It was so funny. But yeah, I mean that was they should schedule a game next year, non-conference game, and just so we can get more entertainment of that. That's awesome. I like Dan Hurley and Mick Cronin also. I like both of them as coaches, and I think they're funny, really funny guys and stuff like that. I know a lot of people don't like them, but I think that was pure entertainment. That was awesome. Another couple of things I want to talk about was Greg McDermott retiring from Creighton. Obviously, I got the Creighton hat on here. It was his time. I think it was his time to go because he had one foot out the door as soon as he hired Coach Huss or Alan Huss from High Point last year. If you don't know, after last year in the middle of the offseason, Greg McDermott hired the coach from High Point, Alan Huss, who used to be an assistant under him the last couple of years before he took the High Point job. And Max said that he would only coach for 1 or 2 more years. And as soon as I heard that, I thought it was a shitty move and a red flag because once you say that, you're kind of half in, half out. And I love Mac as a coach. I know people, my in-laws know him as a friend. He's a very nice guy, I've heard. I don't blame him for this at all, for being half in, half out, because something you love like that, something you've been around your whole life and stuff like that, for just stepping away all of a sudden is probably very, very hard to do. So I don't blame him for that. In this season, you can definitely tell that he was half in, half out as well. Like I said, I don't blame him for that. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Sorry, 1 second. I just heard a massive bang outside. We're all good. Sorry, I'm in my garage and I can hear stuff going on outside. But yeah, I think Mac doing that was not a great move for the university, to be honest with you. But I think Huss will be all right. I mean, the roster they had this year wasn't bad. It never worked out. I don't know what it was. They spent a lot of money and it just never worked out. It was kind of like a Kentucky light. But yeah, I mean the next thing I want to talk about was also the Sweet 16 games. These games are crazy. Listen to these coaches in this game. Ben McCollum versus Fred Hoiberg, great coaches. Nate Oates versus Dusty May, great coaches. Rick Barnes versus T.J. Ossenberger, great coaches. Brad Underwood versus Kelvin Sampson, great coaches. Um, Rick Pitino, which I love. I love Pitino. Rick Pitino versus John Shire, great coaches. Dan Hurley versus Tom Izzo, great coaches. Um, what's his name? Tommy Lloyd versus Coach Cal, great coaches. Sean Miller versus Matt Painter, great coaches. What great coaching matchups too, and especially in that East region, all these coaches in the East region, which were a lot of great coaches in that region. From Hurley and Mick Cronin and Izzo and who's the guy who just took the Providence job? I forget his name. It's on the tip of my tongue. He's a great coach at USF. I don't know. But Pat Kelsey and Bill Self, Bertino, Jamie Dixon, you know, and GMAC at Siena, which Gary McNamara and John Shire at Duke. Like that region is just full of great coaches, great coaches. These Sweet 16 games, I'm gonna do some predictions here too. I'll start with Duke and St. John's. Duke, having Nagamba back and supposedly they might have Foster back, which is just another bullcrap line for March. He's not gonna play. He had a broken foot. He's not gonna play. But I think I got Duke winning this game barely. I mean, St. John's is so good defensively, but I think that their offense is too inconsistent for me. I just don't know how they're going to play against Duke. And Duke's offense is, they've struggled against Siena a little bit. They struggled against TCU a little bit. But in the second half, they found it. I think Duke has kind of found their mojo and found their juice. I think that they'll beat St. John's as well, and then they'll make their way to the Elite Eight. Other game is Michigan State versus UConn. I think I got Michigan State in this because of everybody's picking UConn, to be honest with you. I know that's not a good reason, but I think Michigan State has great size. I don't think UConn can match up with their size too well. I mean, Terrace Reed is an animal. Don't get me wrong; he's so good. But Caravan's their four. I think Caravan versus Kohler. I'll take Kohler in that. Jeremy Fear is a great point guard. Silas Demery is playing hurt. I think we'll see what happens with that, how their matchup is. But I got Michigan State in this. I think Michigan State will go to the Elite Eight and play Duke. Next game, I got Arizona, Arkansas. I would love to see Arkansas win because I hate Arizona, but Arizona's going to win. Arizona's just too good. They got too much size, too much depth, too much defense, too much offense. They're just good everywhere. They have nothing bad about them. But they are chokers, so maybe they choke again. I don't see it happening, but I do think Arizona will win. Next game is Texas Purdue. I've been off Purdue all year long. I don't think they're that good. I don't think Braden Smith has played that very well. I think Fletcher Loyer is too inconsistent. I think Oscar Clough, they paid way too much money for a bum. Trey Kaufman runs really, really good. Don't get me wrong. CJ Cox, he's on and off, but he's pretty good. But depending on what Fletcher Loyer and Braden Smith you get. I do think they'll win the game against Texas because Texas right now is, Purdue's getting a good matchup with them. I think Purdue will win, but yeah, I hopefully I think Purdue has too much size for Texas, really. And Texas, when Volca Titus is not in the game, they just have no size. But maybe, I don't know. We'll see what happens with them. I think Purdue will probably beat them handily. Next game I got is Michigan versus Alabama. What is that noise? Do you guys hear that noise? Am I crazy? Next game I got is Michigan Alabama. Michigan just has way too much size for Alabama. Alabama's just, they have no bigs. I mean, Sherrell's good, but he's one big compared to the Michigan's three. And right now I feel like I also hate Michigan too, and I feel like it's their year as well. I hate them so much. But and especially with Holloway probably not playing again because they found 2 pounds of weed in his apartment, idiot. And I guess they found little plastic baggies, so he's clearly dealing. Michigan just has too much size. I mean, LJ Cason injury will eventually catch up to them. Maybe it's this game, but maybe Bama can pull some magic with their defense and their guards with Philon, Wrightsell, and Amari Allen, and Sherrell is good, but he's just one big against three Michigan bigs. And Michigan's bench is really good. Alabama's bench is okay, but I think Michigan will probably beat them handily. Iowa State versus Tennessee. I don't think Jefferson's going to play, especially the way the injury happened and how he looked on Sunday at the Kentucky game. I think that Iowa State will still win the game because Tennessee, I just think they're too inconsistent for me. But I wouldn't be surprised if Tennessee won. They just have the size, and I think size in March right now wins, and point guard play in March wins, and they have Gillespie, and Gillespie's great. But I could say the same thing about Iowa State. They have Taman Lipsey, who's a really, really good player. But in this game, I definitely have Iowa State winning. Next game, Houston, Illinois. This is probably one of the best underrated games so far. They're playing in Houston, so it'll be a pro-Houston crowd, even though the Big Ten teams do travel really, really well. I think it'll be Houston. I don't know. This game's such a toss-up for me because Houston, they have Kinston Flemings and Chris Senack and Roberts and not Roberts, Sharp, and Tugler's a good defensive big, and they have Miles Huzan, who's been playing good the last two games. It looks like he's kind of finally fitting in, even though it's so late in the season, but better late than never. But Illinois just had so much size and so much good offensive play. They're one of the best. They're the best offense in the country growing up. It's one of the best defenses in the country. So I don't know. It's such a hard. Maybe I'll pick Illinois. No, I'm gonna go with Houston. I'm gonna stick with Houston. I think Houston will win that game. And last but not least, Nebraska versus Iowa. Okay, it's the Yankees versus Red Sox in college basketball. As an Iowa fan, as a Nebraska fan, I could rather lose to a 16 seed than Iowa. We can't lose to Iowa. Don't lose to Iowa, please. Please don't lose to Iowa. They beat us in everything all the time. I feel like we're always losing to Iowa. They're a rival. I hate them. I don't want them to win. Please don't lose to Iowa. Please. That being said, the Huskers did get the Sweet 16. I didn't think they'd make it this far, and it's pretty crazy. But please don't lose to Iowa. Please don't lose to Iowa. Please don't lose to Iowa. You can't lose to Iowa. Please. Iowa, though, just scare me because they have Bennett Sturts and their coach is really, really good. Nebraska needs to be able to get rebounds versus them because they have no size at all. Iowa has no size. Nebraska doesn't have the best size either, but they can definitely get rebounds over them. Nebraska needs to not let Iowa get in their head because I feel like Iowa gets in their head a lot in basketball and football. But yeah, I got Nebraska winning. I think they'll do it, but just please don't lose to Iowa. Please don't lose to Iowa. Don't lose to Iowa, please. All right, that's all the Sweet 16 games. That being said, I got Houston, Nebraska playing each other in the Elite Eight. I got Michigan State and Duke playing each other in the Elite Eight. I got Arizona versus Purdue in the Elite Eight. And I got Iowa State and Michigan playing each other in the Elite Eight. But yeah, I think it's still crazy that Florida lost to Iowa. I think Florida was definitely going to be an Elite Eight team with their size and, their experience, their coach, which I don't think is that good, but, clearly he's something. But yeah, so far it's been a great, fantastic tournament. I think the next couple of days will still be, great games, even though everybody doesn't want to see the chalky games, but I'm telling you it's a better product. But yeah, looking forward to talking to you guys next after the Final Four will be set. Looking forward to it. Talk to you guys soon. Have a great weekend with basketball and stuff like that. Stay safe, stay healthy. Yeah, talk to you guys later.